Hello friends, this is Sarah from Crafting and Relaxing. Welcome, whether you're brand new or a long-time subscriber, I'm glad to have you here. Today I'll be showing you 11 cards that I made from the One Canoe Two Twilight collection. And this is a 6x6 paper pad. I think I did pay retail of about $6 for it. But when I saw it, I liked it because it was just different than other things. You get so many that are in the same color palettes and the same embellishments and different shapes in them. This one does have butterflies, and we're seeing butterflies a lot lately, but I do like them. In this video, I was trying to do a little bit of batching, so I knew that I wanted to make volume. So here I found some white scraps of paper and a distress oxide ink and abandoned coral, which actually went with this paper, which has some unusual coloring. And I'm stamping out a couple of different sentiments in different sizes that I thought I would want to use in these cards. They're pretty girly, they're warm and energetic, so I have a sentiment that says, "You got this," and one that says, "She believed she could, so she did. Congratulations. Thank you." I don't know that I used all of these in the end. I don't think I used the congratulations, but the idea is stamp a bunch of things and set them aside so they're dry. Many times you'll wonder when you see my cards, why did I do it a certain way, or how did I choose those things? It's because they fit. And you'll notice I had some filming problems. Sometimes when I'm making this many cards, I forget you're trying to watch, so I skip ahead sometimes. I stop to let a dog out or go refill my coffee, and I forget to turn the camera back on. What I did with a bunch of these cards was I set up backgrounds. I cut the shapes that I wanted to and prepped my card fronts. And then I just began working on them with sentiments that fit and different cut aparts in the paper pack that I wanted to use. So You're a Peach was in the paper pack, and I wanted to turn it into a thank you card, so I added that also. And I have one of those embroidery floss bows. Those are super easy to make, and I showed that in my Echo Park I'd Rather Be Crafting video. Around the 14th minute, I showed the first part of it, and then there's a more detailed one later. So if you want to watch that video, I'll try and remember to link to it. And then I'm just adding some Wink of Stella to the peach itself, which puts some glitter on it. So I have some 2 different layers of paper on it, some embroidery floss, a bit of glitter, and a bunch of different patterns, quite a bit of interest. I numbered the cards in this video, so at the end you can tell me which one's your favorite in the comments below. On this second one, I have this cut apart. It was from the set. It said "Never Say Never," and to add more interest and also to make it sturdier, I mounted it on white cardstock, just glued it on there and trimmed around it with a pair of scissors. And then I took a punch and put some holes in it to add the dragonfly brad and also another brad, just because I had already used embroidery floss on the next one, or on the one before, so I wanted to try something different. And then I put foam mount behind them just to raise them up a little bit and add more interest. In the end, I put this on the left side when I put the card together. I think I liked it better on the right. There, what I'm doing is I'm aligning it with my glass mat behind it to make sure it's straight and square. See, I liked it better the other way. Oh well, it turned out fine. And then I wanted to try some dimension with the butterfly, so I put art glitter glue just on the very middle of it, and then I pushed it down with just a basic pair of tweezers that I keep in my craft stash, not fancy ones that I bought at a craft store for like $15, just tweezers. You can get them at the Dollar Tree. And there's the finished card. So it has brads, it has ribbon, it has dimension. One of the great things about working on your card fronts before you attach them to your base is that you can punch through them, you can wrap ribbon around them, you can do all sorts of things. If you glue your card front to your base, which sometimes you see me do in videos, then you think, oh, I want to wrap ribbon around it or put a hole punch through it. it's too late. And you've seen me make that mistake, so you got to learn from that. Here I'm just taking black ink and inking the edge of that circle. Those are hole punch circles. The sentiment of Be Fearless was a sticker that actually was in it was in a planner sticker kit that I had, and the color just happens to match. So what I did before I started anything was I went through my stash and I looked for colors that matched. It's the idea of making your own kit from your own stuff. And that's part of why I love to use embroidery floss. It's so inexpensive. So for 50 cents or less, you can find one that matches and use it throughout on all your cards if you wanted. So I have the same kind of bow here. And then by popping up the Be Fearless on foam mount and adding it, I have a dimensional embellishment. And then I'm just fiddling to see how I want it. Do I want it straight? Do I want it at an angle? And the sequins don't exactly match, but who cares? They're pretty neutral. They're actually from the fall color kit, I think from Dollar Tree. You can pay $6 a pack for your sequins if you'd like to, but I just really can't do that. And sequins work really well to just put glue on the back. You can use art glitter glue. You can use any liquid glue that you have. I recommend something that dries clear. A lot of people have those tiny bottles of matte medium with a little tiny applicator. I would like to have one of those, but I just haven't bought one because I have so much other glue that I can't really justify it. Then I'm using my Signo white pen to add a little bit of dots and texture to those darker leaves on the pattern paper, just to bring in more interest. I like to keep my Jelly Roll Clear Star pen and my white Signo pen and my silver Signo pen handy. I haven't had great luck with my gold one. It turned out kind of orange. I don't know. Here, this is that Queen & Company washi tape that I just love. I should have bought more of that at Expo. It's super narrow. It sort of works like those, she doesn't call them stickers, but those tiny narrow sticker sheets that Love from Lizzie has on the sheets. It matches almost everything because it's so narrow and understated. So just adding some glitter washi to that. I like that one. Here's another one. I stamped this sentiment from my friend's stamp set. When you have a friend's stamp set or a friend, oh, I gotta tell you about this. Okay, that is the sand eraser made by Mono. I believe that eraser costs $2 or $3. It is the biggest stamper's miracle on earth, and I don't know why more people don't talk about that. I don't know why people didn't tell me to buy that. If you get a little bit of ink on the edge of your card and your card is done and you want to just erase it, you can take that eraser and just kind of polish it right off of your cardstock. If you stamp your sentiment and have a tiny oops on the side, you can't use it to change the color of a dress after you've colored it in with a marker. No, this is just to fix your oopses. So when you see perfect cards in videos, that's how they got perfect. If you don't have one of those, you might want to ask Santa for one. So I didn't tell you much about that card, but it all turned out fine. I glued the flowers down. Here I'm showing you, I stamp my sentiments and then I love to come back with a circle punch and punch them out. It's nearly impossible to stamp your sentiments perfectly on a circle. So I'm going to just lay those out, put them all together. What I was going to tell you on the other card was I stamped that sentiment, "You get me, thank you," or whatever it said, from my friend's stamp set when it was at my house, and it had just been sitting around in my UFO unfinished objects pile, and then it sort of matched this. It was a little pink, but it worked. If your friend has a stamp set that you love and they're at your house crafting, take some time to stamp out a couple of them on some white cardstock, and then you can use them later when you're working on a project and you want that sentiment. Here I sort of assembled two cards at once, right? I did the punches for both of them. I laid them out. Then I'm gluing them together. And I use my Tombow and my art glitter glue pretty interchangeably. One thing that I do sometimes and don't explain in my videos is I take either the back of the 6x6 paper pad. Later in the project I use the front, but I try and keep the front clean for you guys to see it in the video. Or a cereal box or something, and I'll punch a circle so that I can put my paper and everything onto my circle, and it holds dimension if I want to foam mount it. So you can see here, that's why it has that on the back, is because I punched it out of the paper pad. It's just another way to use all of your supplies. Don't go out and buy a super fancy white cardstock to mount that stuff on. Don't use your fancy card-based paper for that. Here I'm just using my Jelly Roll Clear Star pen, a little bit of glitter. I could use my Wink of Stella, but I was worried that Wink of Stella would smear that ink around because Distress Oxide is water-based and it would move, right? It would react with it. That's why I used my Clear Star. So I have my sentiment mounted up and then a ribbon. And then here's the other one. I added some little pearls to that one too. Here's an example of the sheet of cut-aparts. This paper pad had, I think, 2. So now I'm cutting apart the second one. Always be sure that even if you think you don't want the other cut-aparts, that you're careful when you cut your lines and you don't chop them up or anything. I missed the first time, so I had to arrange it. What I'm doing here is going back and cutting out the You're a Peach because I really liked that and I wanted to make another card. I actually made 12 cards, I'm pretty sure, with this set, but I mailed one off right away. So maybe it is in here because I think it said You're a Peach on it. I don't know. It was for somebody that I owed a big thank you to right away, and so I got it in the mail, and I can't remember if I showed you guys. So again, I'm showing you how it goes on the white cardstock, and then I trimmed around the edge. And I'm trying to see, do I want it vertical? Do I want it horizontal? And these were just little tiny strips of paper that matched the patterns in the pack with a smaller pattern on it. So I've talked about the scale of patterns a little bit before. It's really nice if you have various scales in your paper collection to use those on the same card and repeat the pattern. It just adds some interest and fun. Oh, okay. I tried something here. I don't know if I love how it turned out, but you could take this idea and repeat it. I think I would just put the thing a little higher and the ribbon a little shorter if I was going to redo this card. But the idea was I didn't want to glue down the flag. I wanted to allow it to move around on the page. So I used a piece of paper and put it through the ribbon, and then I didn't glue it down. It's okay. It's different. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. If everybody thinks this is the favorite card number, then we'll try this again with different ribbons and different patterns. I think it was okay. You know how sometimes you make a card and you love it, and sometimes you make a card and think, that one could have used something better. Sometimes if you look at a card and you can't figure out, you don't love it, maybe you need to step away and then come back and add a couple more sequins or some pearls, or maybe you just forgot a couple white dots with a pen. Sometimes you have it all glued together and it just is what it is. And I think that's kind of how I felt about this card. What I was trying to do was give it some motion. So I took that strip of paper, I mounted it on a piece of white cardstock to give it a little more sturdiness, and then I think I attached it with glue dots. I didn't use foam mount because I didn't want the whole thing to be out, but glue dots gave it a little bit more flexibility. And then I put Wink of Stella on the peach because I had already done that on a different card and I knew it turned out cute. And nobody notices if your Wink of Stella isn't perfectly on the lines, okay? The idea is just add some sparkle. And in this card, I'm using my Clear Star pen instead of my white Signo, so it doesn't show up as well on the leaves in the video, but it was just different. I don't necessarily like to make two cards exactly the same, and I had already tried the white Signo. Some things are better in person and some are better on video. In this one, I'm taking the clear star because it makes things a tiny bit gray or silver if you use it on white. So I'm adding dimension to those white flowers with it. I really liked how that turned out. I think that I need to remember to use the clear star pen on white more. I don't necessarily think of it because I forget that it shows nicely, but I really liked how it turned out on those flowers. If you have a clear star pen, you should pretty much use it on everything you make. I think the same for Wink of Stella. I think Wink of Stella pens are a little bit more expensive. I've seen some people try and refill them, but a Jelly Roll Clear Star can be used on everything. Just be sure you get the actual clear because it comes in colors. That's that card. And all of these I put on white cardstock in the end. I just might not show you because there you go. It's on the card base so you can see how it looks finished out. And you can see a little bit of that clear star twinkle in the video. And that one, you notice I made it a top folding card. If you cut your cardstock the other direction, you get top folding. Sometimes I cut all my bases in advance and forget to do that. Here I'm just using some more of these cut aparts. This one says "so very blessed." I really liked that. It wasn't color-wise the most inspirational, but I love cards that remind people to be grateful and count their blessings. I think that having a lot of positive cards out there in the world, there's the hashtag, and Jennifer McGuire talks a lot about random acts of kindness. And I just think that's super important, that as a crafter, you can put some positivity out there in the world, and maybe it makes somebody's day better. I don't know for sure. I am fiddling with my cutter. I don't know what my plan is. One thing I wanted to definitely tell you guys about, the reason I don't measure everything, if you watch how I did that, right? I took the cut apart from the paper pad and I built the size of everything around it with the borders that I wanted. That's why I don't have measurements. That's why I don't work from card sketches. I take a sentiment stamp that I really want to use or a cut apart and I work from there. Or sometimes you'll see me, I'll show you a couple where I made a card and I wanted to use a sentiment, but it just was too big for the card, so I switched. But I try and adapt to what I have or get inspiration from what's in the paper pack. So if I said, and your sentiment will be 2.5 inches, and that wasn't 2.5 inches, then it wouldn't work, right? Here I was experimenting. I just took that sentiment and then I built a card to work with it, and I didn't want it centered. I don't know why in this one I just decided that, but you'll see I kind of put it off to the right. And a lot of people talk about thirds and dividing things into thirds, but for some reason I was dividing the excess into thirds in the background, and I just had fun doing it. Maybe in the end it just looks like I put my card together crooked, but I liked it. This card is very square. I was also surprised. Sometimes I'm not a fan of plaids, but I really liked all the plaids in this pattern. When I glued that together, the top stuck out. For some reason, I couldn't cut all the papers the same length, so I just flipped it over and trimmed it with my scissors. You can do that all the time, and it comes out perfect. I was off camera a little bit when I did it. Okay, you'll notice in my cards, I don't do a lot of bows, an actual bow that you have to tie with a ribbon and make it come out perfect. I like to do knots. I like to do loops. I do those easy bows with embroidery floss that aren't really bows. If you watch the video, you'll see, but they look like a bow. I don't enjoy sitting around fighting with ribbon, and I love how those knots and stuff turn out. They mail well, they hold their shape. You can stack up a dozen cards and put it in a box for a friend. There I just put a glue dot behind it so that that ribbon would stay where I put it and not sag or move around. So you can see that is a super simple card, and I kind of like it. I like how it turned out. Okay, what I'm trying to show you here is a trick I finally figured out. I take the finished card that has dimension on it to the edge of my glass media mat, and I lay out the card on the edge and put the glue around the front. So you're not bending up your card front, you're not fighting your foam mount or your bows or anything. I do that a lot, but it doesn't always show in the video. That time I tried to make sure that you get to see that. So you'll see me, I'm putting my card fronts together, then I go to the edge of the mat and I use that ledge. So I put the card front up on the mat, and then I have that 1/4 of an inch for space for the front. That is my new favorite trick. I don't know why we're not all talking about that. Tim Holtz talks about in his videos how you can use the edge of your mat to scoop off your sequins and catch them in containers and that kind of thing. I think I just push mine off to the edge and clean them up days later. So here's another thing. At first I fiddled with a bow, and and then I just decided, you know what we need? A knot. And I used a dark, very chunky twine that I had handy. I love it in person. This one didn't look as good in the video and photos because it's dark and it doesn't show. That's a really fun way if you have a jar or something, just fussy cut around it. You can tie ribbon or twine, baker's twine, all that stuff we have. Embroidery floss. If you want and your embroidery floss is too thick, remember it's always 6 strands. You could take it apart for more variety. But you can tie that around things and get some interest. Another great idea for how to make your own embellishments and get ideas, walk down the aisles at Michael's or a craft store. Look at those dimensional packs of embellishments they sell for $5 or $6. Don't buy any. Take a couple pictures on your phone of things you like and go home and make some. Layer things up, glue things, add wink of Stella, add glitter, add washi tape, add ribbon, whatever, and make your own embellishments. Because that is a huge money saver, and then your cards don't look like everybody else's. Here I'm adding some washi tape. It's wider than the other one. My guess is I couldn't find the narrow one at the time, because if you look at that spot on the right, I probably would have wanted the narrower one to fit in it. And then I'm taking my Clear Star Jelly Roll pen and adding sparkle to the word shine. Just coloring over the whole thing, not being too worried about the edges. I think you can see it a little bit there. I know this video is really long. Sorry. If you don't like it, just tell me, and next time I'll put music or something or speed it up more. But I thought there were a lot of interesting little tips here. On the foam mount, notice that I worked around the ribbon. If you don't work around that twine or whatever, something lumpy, you'll get a lump. So I left a space for it. And then I just put the jar on there. And in these paper packs, where you have cut-aparts, where you have 2 or 3 of the same cut-apart, if you like how a card turns out, repeat it with slightly different papers or colors. If you don't like it, do something completely different. But there is some scale that you can repeat because you have 2 or 3 of the same thing, depending on how the paper pack is. And here I'm tying again. This is a slightly less chunky twine, and it's a lighter color. See, this one just looks cuter in the video. It just picked it up better. But it's the same idea. And a knot. And look, I didn't suffer, right? I just tied a knot. I know how to tie a bow. I just don't like to fiddle. And I loved the sparkly shine word on the other card, so I'm doing that idea again. If you don't have foam mount, you can always mount things flat on your page with just glue or double-sided tape. Maybe put a circle of paper or a square of paper, something to add more of a focal point to that embellishment. Popping them up does that for them too, but still, this would have looked really cute with a circle right behind it. It would have added a little more to the card. This is a pretty simple card. Okay, there's that gold pen. See, I keep trying. That thing is orange. It's from the same Signo set where I got my silver and my white, but I just don't like that color. I don't know if everyone's is like that or I got a weird one. I'm adding some dots to those what are they called? We don't have them where I live. Fireflies? I don't know. Anyway, just to make them stand out a little bit more. Anytime you add pens or markers or stickers or whatever to your papers, it just adds more interest. Here I'm going along and putting dots, maybe they're stitches, just to add some more texture and interest and make my cards different. I like to do different things. Like that one, I'm not sure I got it centered top to bottom, so let's pretend I wanted it that way. And there you can really see how the word shine had the sparkle. Okay, this one is clearly after I got my Sizzix. If you haven't seen that video, oh, you gotta see it. It was an amazing deal. So I cut the stars out with my Sizzix, and I prepped some of this off the video, so I'll tell you how I did it. See the plaid in the stars? That was paper from the paper pack, and I just glued the stars onto the plaid, and then I trimmed around them with scissors, so that when I glue this down, I have some white stars glued to the paper, then I have the star outline, and then I'm going to glue it down. And I'm showing you, I have the quickie glue pen I could use, but I decided to use my art glitter glue. And see from the back, you can see I've glued those stars on. You just put glue on your outline, then you smash it down on your patterned paper, and then you just trim around it a little sloppily with your scissors while the glue's still wet and there's some give. You won't notice it necessarily the minute you look at the card. It's just another area of interest. See, I'm coming in with that fancy Tombow eraser because I got some pink on the stars. I'm telling you, that thing, I don't know why I didn't know about that years ago. Then I put foam mount, and I added an offset circle with the darker color from this paper pad just to add a little more interest. So this is a great example. This sentiment was too big for the other style of cards I was doing with layers of patterned paper. It just didn't fit on any of those stripes that I was creating. So this one, I looked for a way to use the whole scale of the card but add enough interest, and the stars did that for me. So just go through your stamps or your paper packs and think about them creatively. I'm trimming off these stars. I'm not throwing them away. Everything has an opportunity to be used later. I'm putting clear star onto that heart. It has clear star here and there on the stars. It has plaid paper. It has that background paper that was really loud and I wanted to tone down. And it has white stars. It has a lot going on and I really like it. And that's the Wink of Stella pen. On a card, when you look at it, I think that Wink of Stella and Clear Star, if they're both the clear version, work together pretty well. I just use them for different scale areas. I don't want to take my Clear Star pen and try and color those star edges. I went to the enamel dots to look to see if I had any that would go. No, I couldn't make that work. So I have some pearls. I think I got those at Expo fairly inexpensively, and I'm just adding a few of those. And there's the card up close, just sitting on a card base so you can see it. As a lover of stars, I really like that one, but you tell me which one was your favorite. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't yet. Bye-bye.